Hello. Welcome to Hotline League episode 88. We've got a great show for you tonight. Mark and I are returned from Detroit. We've revitalized and refreshed, and we're ready to talk to you about League of Legends competitive esports.
I'm 638 in queue now.
Of course, Mark is really excited about a different game that we're not going to talk about. It's a 15-year-old game. It's not League of Legends. But do you want to give a shout out to Alienware? Thank you for being our sponsor, and as well as Movement. Oop, hang on, I can do this. As well as Movement, who also sponsors the show. We'll talk more about them as the night progresses. But first off, I want to check in with my constant co-host, Mark Zimmerman. How's it going, Mark?
It's going great. I woke up with a sore back, and I couldn't remember why. And I remember I lifted a refrigerator yesterday night. So
You lifted a fridge?
Yeah, not by myself, but I still had to carry it down some hallways and stuff.
Yikes. What did you... Were you getting rid of the fridge or bringing a new fridge in?
Getting rid of. Completely moved out of our old place now. I just need to turn the keys back in.
Gotcha. Well, congratulations on being in your new place. It looks quite nice. You're not in a bedroom anymore. This is a living room. Behind you. Correct?
That's true.
Okay, well, there you go.
Got that right.
So obviously this past weekend was finals. What did you think of Detroit?
Are we being honest here?
Yeah, be honest, because I liked it a lot. I'm surprised you didn't like it.
I mean, Detroit, it depends what you mean. Like, are we talking about the city or like the experience? Because if you're asking how was Detroit, my most memorable experience was leaving the venue on the rehearsal day on Friday and just seeing steaming manholes that smelled like Chinese food, but they substituted all the meat with shit. And it was like General Tso's shit, wonton, sweet and sour shit. Like, it just smelled fucking awful everywhere because all the manholes I saw were just steaming.
See, I like the city a lot. So Brodin and Julie and I were running around, and we're like, wow, it's super beautiful. There's all these cool restaurants. Like, I don't know, when we got there the night before the fourth place match, we walked around and we were like, this place is sick. So I actually really liked it. I mean, my expectations were low because everyone shits on Detroit, but I actually found it to be very idyllic. It was weird that the manhole covers had steam stuff coming out of them, but I thought it was
constantly.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't do that much exploring of the city. I walked to a couple of restaurants. They were fine. It was not very crowded. It seemed like there were a lack of people.
Yeah.
Which can be good or bad depending on why.
Right.
Some people had some very interesting stories from their Uber drivers and from their like the security guards and stuff. So that was very neat.
Okay.
Hello? Is there a problem?
Yeah.
Oh, Skype just hung up. You hung up or Skype
I hung up because it's doing this thing that it's done before, where Skype, even though we have it muted, decides to make that noise. How did I resolve this last time? Because I know I resolved it last time. Anyway, let's just keep talking. What did you think of the experience itself?
So outside, like general environment, it was pretty cool. I really liked the fan day that they did. The games are obviously super sick. Let me real quick. The games are sick. The venue was pretty nice. I really liked the venue. Fan day was cool. I enjoyed doing the dive. We had that KDA thing, which took forever on Friday, which I was like getting pretty burnt out on it. I was like, all right, let's wrap this up. But yeah, otherwise pretty good.
Wait, what do you mean you got burnt out on it?
Like on Friday, like we have a rehearsal, and usually you come in for like 3-4 hours to just read through your scripts again, check out the venue, find your tech like little things to make sure everything's working. And then we're filming our KDA thing, and we started the day with that. So I got dressed up in that cosplay gear from the very beginning of the day, and then we filmed a bunch of stuff, and then we went through rehearsal and read through, and then we filmed some more stuff, and then like we called the photographer from the hotel to come when there's nothing else for us to really do and take some pictures of us in the cosplay outfit. And by that point, it was like 6:30, and I had like this shit in my hair the whole time and a tail on and a choker, and I was like, I'm about over this joke. So it was like a little like, come on, we have everything we need, guys. Do we really need some more pictures? We're taking pictures on everyone's phones. Let's wrap this one up.
Well, I had a great time. I actually think I was thinking about doing a dedicated video about this, but then I'm flying off to Seattle tomorrow, which I'll talk more about later on in the show. But I actually think this is the best event Riot's done in a long time, which is pretty great because I have been pretty critical of, I don't know, their broadcast and their events and stuff in the past. But I guess, I mean, from an LCS perspective, like, I think, okay, everybody know, like, we'll have, I'm sure, somebody call and talk about it, yeah. Opening ceremony and say they didn't like it. But fan experience was great. Like, the fan day was awesome. I'm really glad that Riot put that on. Like, if people remember, we did live Hotline League in St. Louis. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do one this time, but on that show, we had somebody call in and just say how disappointed they were in Riot because they felt like the St. Louis show was just sort of like phoned in, and they didn't do a bunch of cool stuff. This event, I think they did amazing stuff, and that also goes to all the ancillary stuff around it, like the hype videos, which I thought were some of the best that they've made in years. I don't know, it just felt really good to me because I had felt like things were not looking that great. I've also been really excited about all the sponsors that have been getting announced recently, because I think that's great for the ecosystem.
We had Red Bull on the desk.
Yes, yeah, I know. I heard at one point in time they had to go.
Sucks.
I heard they had to go run and get additional Red Bull because you guys kept stealing them from the fridge and it looked like the fridge was empty or something.
That wasn't me. That must have been crew because I think I was the only one who took any from there, and I think I took one.
Okay. Well, either way,
they said we could do it on broadcast, but I wanted to, but I never felt like there was quite an opportunity for me to like take my headset off and like walk over.
Yeah, it would have looked really awkward. I feel like.
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity. Like, I don't know. It felt like there should have been, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah, you would have had. I almost feel like you would have had to do it comically, like somebody starts ranting.
Oh, for sure, it would have to be a joke, like "Give me a Red Bull." That play was, or that game was boring or something, but like it didn't. You know, I don't know.
Either way, I thought that everything about it was great. I don't even like the projection system was cool. Obviously, the opening ceremony was, but I don't even blame them. Well, it seems like there were audio issues and stuff. We'll get into it whenever somebody calls in. But I don't hold the opening ceremony that much against them anyway. So. I don't know. I just round of applause to Riot for an amazing show and really excited about it. Hope that represents sort of more of what we see in the future. Really excited for summer finals, and I had a great time.
Whoa!
I thought it was super fun.
What are you doing? Was any of that on camera?
No.
No, it wasn't. Shit. My fucking cat wanted to get on my lap, and at the exact moment that he jumped, I pulled back to like give him room to jump. And he was aiming for the armrest, but I pulled it out from under him, so he missed and had to like claw onto my leg.
You okay? Is the cat okay?
So it's fine. Yeah, he's fine. He's fine. It's just fucking funny. He'll be back in a little.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay. So obviously, summer finals is a big thing to talk about. I'm sure we'll talk about
match.
What's that? Third, fourth place match. Talk about TL Dynasty. The Cloud9 stuff. Team's not boot camping in Korea, which was news that I broke during the press conference, which I was really excited about.
But you're not a reporter. How'd you do that?
I asked a question. I said, hey, I hear that that you guys are not boot camping in Korea. You're going to boot camp in Europe. And they were like, yeah.
Are you still media? Or are you content creator now?
I have a press badge. And I read that line. I'm a shill, sellout, you know, it's just, go look on Reddit, they'll tell you what I am.
Content creators can do more stuff, like go to parties that journalists aren't invited to, right?
I think if I was yes, but then I also wouldn't get access to do the interviews that I want to do if I was a content creator.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Mm.
Anyway.
I mean, whatever.
So there was all that, the world stuff. I think that there were some other things from this past week. I'm trying to remember. Obviously, we can talk about, if people want to talk about all the sponsors that got announced. Yasuo joined 100 Thieves. I don't know if there's anything to discuss there.
MVP Sven.
MVP Sven was cool.
It was really close, actually.
Discussion to have. Was it really close? I'm so happy that I Didn't fuck that up.
Yeah, it was 4 points or something.
Yeah. Trying to think if there's anything else major. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. Oh, the HBO Ballers thing. That's the thing I was thinking about.
Oh, right.
We can talk about that. I don't know if I'm allowed to say some of the stuff that I know about it.
Just say it anyways. What's the worst that happens?
I get sued by HBO.
No one's gonna watch this show. No one watches it.
Agreement.
No one watches this show. You didn't disclose it. You leaked it. Accidentally.
The court of law.
I hear if it's an accident.
At the court of law, they would just play this clip, and I'd be like, "Yeah, he said it's not a disclosure." Okay, whatever.
If it's accidental, it's not illegal.
Okay. Let's just talk about, or let's just take some calls, unless you have anything that I'm forgetting.
No, I think you hit most of it.
Okay. Do you want to explain how the show works?
Yeah, if I can. So the way the show works, if you've never seen it before, it's a live call-in show. In Twitch chat right now, I'm spamming the link to Discord. Go ahead and join up there. Once you get there, you can go ahead and join the Pleb Calls voice channel. Make sure to mute once you get in there. You only need to mute your microphone if everyone's being a good boy. After that, in the Pleb Topics text channel, you can post what it is that you want to talk about. Please try and make sure this is a take, not just a question. So there's more to talk about. You think Ballers is going to suck and it's just going to bring nothing but negative press to League of Legends? Great, interesting. Let's talk about it. If we like your take, we'll pull you from the Pleb Calls voice channel into the waiting room where you'll hang out until it's your turn. We'll do a quick mic check, and then we'll bring you onto the air to talk with us.
And if you are a sub, first off, thank you for being a sub. I'd love to see some more subs right fucking now. But also, make sure that you sync your Twitch account with your Discord account so that you can get access to the sub topics channel. You can put your topic in there. It moves a little slower. In fact, today it looks like we've only had 4 people post takes in there, so the chances of you getting on the show if you are a sub and we pull a couple people from there pretty high. I'm sure some more will be coming in there soon, but just goes to show you. Other than that, I think that's it. We can go ahead and hop in. As Mark is getting the show ready, I'm pulling some people. I am going to go ahead and pull up the sub stuff, talking about subs. I want to give a shout out to some people who have subbed on the show, who show that they are real supporters. You know, not like the posers. What was it? So somebody, the EA guy from, what was it, Respawn, said that people who don't spend, he called free-to-play players that are free-to-play in Apex Legends freeloaders. Yeah. Show that you're not a freeloader, all right? Sub. Even if it's with a Twitch Prime. C. Crouton, X Axel 95X, a Honey Badger, right to seize one, Laziness for 15 months, a fucking stupid name for Prime, with the Prime sub, Mini Morian, I am Nucleus for 18 months in a row. Hi Travis, do you see my response to TL CoreJJ's tweet about watching Double F videos? Yes, I did see that. Will D1 Thrill and Kim Jong Fun. Thank you everyone for the subs. There are some more, but we'll be getting into that in just a little bit. Where's Mark? Is he back yet? He is. No, he's not left yet. Mark. Oh, why does Discord show? Oh, did we lose you? You're muted. I don't hear you at all. This is a problem. That's okay. I can fill. I'll just keep filling. And Mark, keep messing with your stuff. And then whenever you... Did you accidentally mute? It doesn't show you're muted on Discord. So I'm not sure. Yeah, just no audio from you. Okay. The Rye Guy, 95 for 300 bits. NA Alistar for 13 months. Numb Effect with Prime. Full Reset King with Prime. Tom Shoe, 9 months. And then Diane Ilrea gifted 5. That was very generous of her. Thank you, Diane. GG Esports Rengar, the Rye Guy, 95 subbed, and my PS for 22 months in a row. Gafford Gang, you good? I don't know. I think they're good. I think they are good. Yeah. So Mark is getting his stuff sorted out. He's trying to express his dismay at the situation. I don't think it's the headset. I think there must be some sort of software issue. Why don't we switch channels and see if... I'm going to drop down to the sub-voice channel and see if it does anything for us. Follow me down, Mark. Can't hear me. Mark, can you talk? Okay, nope, still not. Okay, going back to on air. You know, it wouldn't be a Hotline League if we didn't have audio issues, technical issues. Mark says hello in chat. He says, pull the next guy, it's a headset issue. Okay, well, we can't hear you, Mark, until then. So, not sure what to do until then. It's going to take a while. Okay, I'm going to pull the person. Dr. Manhattan. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, fantastic. Mark is working on fixing some of his audio stuff. Why don't I just have this conversation one-on-one with you? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from DC, as always. I just got back from Detroit on Monday.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the show. How was Detroit for you? Because I know I bumped into you.
The overall venue wasn't that bad. I actually enjoyed it. It's one of the newer venues that I've been to. In my experience of going to many LCS events. Chat says I'm loud. I'm not sure according to them. Let me turn myself down. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's funny because I turned you down, and then you somehow got louder, even though I've manually turned you down. So it's a funny situation.
Oh, all right.
I think maybe you're just really close to the mic.
Yeah. Now I'm about like a foot away from my mic, so it might be some stuff.
Welcome back, Mark. Don't hear you. So, Dr. Manhattan, what is your take? What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
My take is I'm going to be the guy, as you guys said, there's going to be a take on this tonight, and that is I don't think that live performances have much of a place in esports, and based on previous esports events that we've had in the past.
Okay. Do you want to elaborate at all?
Yeah, so I've noticed that this isn't just exclusive to League of Legends, but in general, this has happened in the past. I think there was like an event with a Dota event with Deadmau5 where like no one was feeling it for the most part.
I mean, the most obvious one to me is the Overwatch League one where they had what's that guy's name?
I was in the audience, and I can confirm that no one really actually was vibing for that one.
Hello, Mark. Welcome back.
Thanks.
You missed it, Dr.
I know
Manhattan.
everything's quiet now.
Yeah, Dr. Manhattan wants to talk about how the opening ceremony or like esports matches should not have live performances.
Yeah, and people, I think one of the first things people are going to point to in terms of like why it was bad to some degree is probably the or like a good example of this would be like people using Imagine Dragons, but that's kind of where the thing is.
What about Mark Z's Silver Scrapes?
That was actually amazing. I was in the audience for that one too.
Yeah. Yikes.
But, hey, it actually was not that bad. I'll give you credit for that. But yeah, back to the main point. It's one of those things of like effort versus value, and I think that I don't see what an artist like. I'd actually never heard who Jack Sanderson was prior to this, and it's just like I know for a fact I couldn't have been the only one in there. And my main point that I would have to say is again the whole idea of effort versus value, which is what does this add to the people either in the arena or the people watching on stream who probably have never heard of Jack Sanderson at that point, and I just don't think this adds a lot to the experience. But I'll let you guys chime in.
So the reason I think they chose Jack Sanderson was because she is from Detroit. I believe is the reasoning there. So that we're like, okay, we're gonna have this like Detroit native come in and sing. By the way, not saying that justifies it. I'm just sort of saying like that was the concept there, right? Was let's get somebody from Detroit to do a live performance in Detroit. It will match like all the Detroit stuff, right? Like they obviously didn't have the artists and Boston come in, but I do remember they had what is the Dropkick Murphy song, shipping off to Boston.
Yeah.
Like that felt really, really good in that moment in Boston. So I think that that's kind of the thing that they were looking to recreate. And obviously, Jack Sanderson, I was not familiar with that artist either, so I think that was rough. But I do think, I don't know, Mark, do you want to chime in on any of this before I talk about some of the counterpoints?
No, I think I understand where he's coming from, and I have a lot of thoughts on it. So, do you want to go first, or should I?
Yeah, I'll just say, like, I think that there are a lot of counter arguments to that, right? I think the important thing is finding the right fit. So I've said before that I think all you really need to do to make this stuff successful, like this was my criticism whenever Overwatch League had DJ Khaled, whatever his name is, like forcing random person into the show does not feel like a good thing. Like BlizzCon has done this at times and it's been kind of whatever, but the nice thing is it's not part of like the tournament or the broadcast or anything. It's just sort of there, like just deciding randomly like we're gonna have this performer here. It doesn't feel good. I think the Jack Sanderson thing makes a little more sense because still they're from Detroit, but like the way to do this is you find somebody who is somehow attached to the game, or you do some sort of performance of music that's related to the game. That's the easiest way. It's like hole in one. You can do that. Like if Overwatch League had just had an orchestra play Overwatch League music, it would have been sick. If Riot had just had, I don't know, some similar thing, right? Where like maybe they play some of the more recent music, you know, I think that like the audience would have liked that a lot more. You could even get, and by the way, I think even just having like an EDM artist is better than, like an EDM artist is going to show up, they're going to have their set, they just play a couple things, it's mostly okay. I know the deadmau5 thing didn't go very well at TI, but I don't know, I can think of KDA is a good example of this. I think the Imagine Dragons performance was a good one. I think there are a lot of examples of really cool opening ceremonies with great music. The other thing that's interesting, so I know Dr. Manhattan, you were there in person. I hear it was way worse on the broadcast because of audio mixing issues. So whenever Riv came out and did like the announcements too, I heard that was like all messed up. It sounds like the audio was not very well tuned for this, which doesn't surprise me, by the way, because I think it is hard for an esports broadcast that is not used to like music, and that type of performance is an entirely different thing. So trying to squeeze that in to the start of an LCS show, you know, Worlds is different, but trying to squeeze it into the start of an LCS show is a little different.
I think, yeah, so like I went back and because I was in the venue, obviously, and it sounded fine to me in the venue. For the most part, you know, not perfect, but okay. I went back and I re-listened to it on the broadcast. Once again, like, it sounded okay. I didn't think it sounded fucking awful. From like a mix perspective, maybe I missed the parts that bothered people because I was skipping around a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. It felt like an overreaction to me based on a couple factors. I agree with everything you said about like the choice of artist probably isn't right, because like while she is a Detroit native, it's not like their work is synonymous with Detroit, quite like that Shipping Off to Boston song is quite literally like the Boston song of the 2000s, you know, like sporting events, The Departed, fucking everywhere uses it. So being able to play that is like an obvious win. If you could have even gotten Dropkick Murphys to play it, great. But if you can't, okay, whatever. Don't like force in a random artist, I think is a point to take away from it. As well as the style of the music. Shipping Off to Boston's like this fucking banger, get hyped, get ready to lose your shit song. And like, for the most part, their music is like kind of mellowy rock. It's not quite like stadium rock or anything like that.
I think you have to find an artist or a song that could be listened to or played like in a movie trailer. You know, something that's like universally, like it's safe, and like EDM is a pretty good example of that. I feel like EDM is generally pretty inoffensive. That's why they use it for so many like family animated movie trailers now. You know, it's like pretty safe to play. I think the Jack Sanderson stuff, like
it's kind of like indie rock. It's I'm with you there. And I think the other elephant in the room that you didn't touch on is how she looks. which I think actually played a big part of it, more so than a lot of people probably admit, is like, I mean, this is gonna sound mean, but it's just, she's kind of frumpy. She kind of just comes out in like her street clothes. I saw a lot of people bagging on her for that, and she had that weird thing with her face, like sticking her tongue out. I think that also tonally didn't land with people at all.
I mean, I think the problem, I mean,
and people ragged on her, like her in particular, super hard, which I think is kind of indicative of that.
I think, see, that stuff is disappointing to me, and it doesn't come as a surprise, I guess, but like Twitch chat, and especially Twitch chat whenever it gets that large, and Reddit and all that stuff, people are pretty shitty about, like, if they were predisposed, if they're unfamiliar with the person, they're predisposed to, maybe they don't like the music or whatever, it's like, yeah, people are going to say some really shitty stuff about their appearance, which, like, I saw some of that in the Reddit thread, and that was really disappointing, because it's like, for me, it's like, all right, if you guys didn't like the music, that's fine, that's one thing. If you didn't like the way the performance went, that's one thing, but it is really shitty whenever people make a lot of comments about someone's appearance.
Right, and like, it didn't make it... Yeah, like the tongue thing and the clothing complaints made it into the Reddit thread and were pretty highly upvoted. But like Twitch chat, because I went back and like I said, I rewatched it to hear from the broadcast perspective. I have Twitch chat up. Twitch chat was pretty fucking brutal. And it's Twitch chat, and I understand that that's people being much more negative compared to like the discourse that makes its way onto Twitter or Reddit. But I think
Reddit was also being kind of shitty about it too, right?
Yeah, for sure. And so like, it's one of those things where like maybe it's not explicitly said, but based off how Twitch chat was acting, like, you know, that's like kind of in the back of some people's minds. It's just like the look just doesn't like. And to be fair, you know, like indie hipster look might not just work well with gamers in general, which is a different
I mean, for me, like, I didn't ever really have any issue with the way she was dressed because like I've gone to like Pinback concerts and shit like that.
Yeah,
like, I'm used to this.
I've seen Modest Mouse and shit, you know, like people just wear jeans and a shirt.
Yeah, that's standard. So, I don't know. Whatever. I think it is disappointing. But Dr. Manhattan, I do think that you can have musical performances in the opening ceremony. I disagree with the idea that you can't ever do it, but I do think you have to be very smart about it, and you can't just sort of be like, well, this is a Detroit-based artist, let's have her perform, you know?
Yeah, I think that's also... I think that's probably, now that I think about it, the biggest problem is it just shows that they kind of understand their audience. It's like, you know, it's just clearly a lot of people when it comes, like, whenever you watch these hype montages, or whenever you watch, like, the, moments of summer 2019, it's got, like, some pretty good, like, hype music into it. You're not hearing, like, some indie garage basement kind of stuff, which I love, but, you know, it's just not right for hype trailers.
Yeah. For sure. And that's why, like, the NF stuff landed really well, like, people liked his shit in the hype trailer and being a callback to Detroit, but then, like, yeah, we didn't get NF, who probably would have been a great artist to get for a hype thing, you know? So don't just stick someone else in there, which I totally agree with. And I'm not sure about the audio, like, people say the audio was really bad on stream, but like, has anyone gone back and watched it but me? Because I didn't feel like it was that bad.
I have not gone back and watched it, so I don't know.
People said like,
I tweeted and like a ton of people were saying that. Oh, well, one of the things they were saying wasn't even just her audio. It was like Riv would be talking over. So they had music, Riv, and they had caster audio from those clips that they were playing and projecting onto the ground.
Yeah, so that shit was for sure fucked up. I was talking about her performance.
Okay, yeah. So I think, but that's part of the problem is that I think a lot of people were just like, what is this opening ceremony? Because they heard a song they didn't like, and then like the audio afterwards is all screwed up, and it's just sort of like, which is too bad because I thought, okay.
The idea was cool.
I'm kind of with Mark where like, I was not watching and being like,
I wouldn't say it was good, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't, but I don't think it was terrible from a lot, like, in-person performance, and the crowd was like cheering at points in time. Like, I don't know, maybe they were just being super respectful, but like, I don't know. I don't think opening ceremony was great. I think there were moments of it that were good. I did not find it as offensive as like Reddit and Twitter and everybody thought it was, but I do agree, but that's just me, and I still stand by my statement, which is, like, I can find it pretty okay, not great, but pretty okay, but a ton of other people won't because it's just like not the right music casting.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel, where people are like saying, "Oh, the audio was super bad," and I went back and listened. I don't quite hear what's terrible about it. Some people said she was out of rhythm or out of tune, but like I don't have a good musical ear, so I couldn't tell. And I really doubt that most of Reddit has a good musical ear, or Twitter, and so I don't think that's really what they're complaining about. I think they didn't like the song, they didn't like the artist, and that's fine. I'm not saying this is like discrediting that. That's totally fine. But like to me, that feedback to that was almost like DJ Khaled level from our own community, but no other community seemed to care.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't think it was as bad when a lot of people were comparing it to that. Whereas like the Overwatch fucking thing became a meme everywhere across all gaming. So like, I agree. It was
Ricker, sorry, Saint Ricker 52 says something that Brodin pointed out too, which is like, Brodin, when he was sitting next to me, and watching, he said, "I wonder how often she does performances in like this kind of arena or whatever, because her mouth, or she would move away from the microphone a lot." And so that's one of the things he would say is like the audio would be kind of spotty at times because she'd move away from the microphone. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
I'm sure.
We spent a lot of time on this though.
Yeah.
So maybe we move on.
I think I agree with most of the points though. It was not the right, like that was not a good opening ceremony.
Yes. I agree. But I don't think it was so terrible and cringeworthy the way everybody's saying it was. But that's why I don't fault Riot too much for it. It's like, okay, it was an experiment. Let's find a local performer. Let's bring them in. Let's try to make this feel really Detroit. That's what they did. Didn't work. Lesson learned. But I just think they shouldn't do something like that again. Dr. Manhattan, thanks so much for your call. Anything you want to say as we say goodbye?
I will say at the very least, what she did that Khaled, she didn't do that Khaled did was Khaled just plugged his own shit, and I'm pretty sure he didn't even say the word Overwatch once during that thing. But yeah. Anyways,
see, like
he said he was so excited
says,
to be
it was
here
cringe
that...
100%. YBPC with your take, because I watched the DJ Khaled performance and I know how fucking bad this shit could be. That was terrible.
DJ Khaled had the fucking funniest cut of all time, where he's like, "Yo, Overwatch League, let's move," and then he does like this fucking weird shuffle, which is 10 times worse of a move than sticking your tongue out. And then they cut to this kid, the fucking kid just staring like.
That was so good. I will never get over it. That was the best.
That was like Office level. That was Office directing on accident. It was that fucking hilarious. And like, yeah, she wasn't good, but like, go watch that clip and tell me the performance was anything that bad.
Yeah. All right, Dr. Man, thanks for the call.
I appreciate you guys.
Have a good one. All right, moving on to the next caller. We got Hype Love Shack for 13 months. Gorgon, who subbed with Prime. Kyle0808 for 19 months. I missed you, Kyle. Dr. Manhattan 18 for 22 months. Dak Jamkin for 9. Circulid Hell. And then Putsy Poo for 6. Looks like we are almost getting our next caller in. Alex the Cool Guy and Raikai for 3 months. Our next caller is here. Rosenkin. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, that's actually right.
Rosenkin, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Long Island, New York.
Long Island, New York. What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
So what I want to talk about is that after, this 5-game set in the finals that people were really hype about, most people after watching that, including analysts and coaches and people on Twitter and Reddit, are really down on TL this year and NA in general. So I'm a really big esports fan, so I watch almost every podcast that most people do. And watching Euphoria, they mentioned TL
Sorry, you're not allowed to use the official titles of any of our competing podcasts. You can just say that LEC won.
That LEC
one dove deep and one in their excitement. I don't know.
Yeah, the one with excitement. They mentioned TL, and then they immediately disregarded them, saying yeah, NA team, we don't even care about the NA teams. It's a 3-region race. NA is just as bad as LMS, and that bothered me a lot.
For context, was it in a joking manner where we were very dismissive of Europe a lot of times, but as a joke, or were they actually being
I think the comparison to LMS was joking, but the fact that they were regarding NA as a contender was fairly serious, from the facial expressions and the tone of voice.
Okay.
As I was watching, Like they just didn't care.
Yeah, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt because I've had players on certain teams who have misunderstood some of the jokes that we've made about them on this show, and maybe don't have the full context, and so it's hard given that you just said we only have the little bit that you said to try to understand if that was
no totally.
Yeah. But so you're saying you think right now that Europe and the European analysts or whatever on that European show that they are sort of just down on North America. They don't think we're a real contender.
Yeah, and like even like Doublelift doesn't even want to say that he's like you know, not excited, but like he doesn't want to like put himself out there and say like that they're going to do really well, because he doesn't want like the backlash.
Are you talking about the line from the interview that I?
Yeah, I don't know if he was memeing, but
he was memeing for sure.
He was memeing. He actually thinks he's going to do well.
For context, at the end of the interview I did with him, which is on YouTube right now, everyone go watch it. Doublelift was saying that he's like, every year I say this is going to be the year. I don't want to jinx myself. I'm not going to say it. We're going to do terrible. I'm going to be awful. Blah blah blah. So I mean, he was.
I got that was memeing, but I think
I didn't.
You know,
I didn't see it from that interview. I saw it from the Superior interview with Ovley after the matches concluded on stage.
Yeah.
That was it was much better there.
Yeah, he didn't want to say like that they were going to do great. But personally, I think TL is going to make like at least top 4. I think they're a top 4 team in the world.
Okay, like, why do you think this?
So, watching the finals and like watching TL from say MSI, I understand it's a long time ago, but like just watching the finals, it seemed that to me at least that Cloud9 only took one game like realistically, which is game 2. Like they really played super well in game 2. And I know most people are going to say that game 3 like wasn't close, but watching game 3, like TL just made like 2 or 1 really bad decision that like really snowballed the rest of the game, which was they tried to contest a Mountain Drake when they had only 2 ultimates up, and then the next fight that happened that Cloud9 forced again afterwards, they also didn't have 3 ultis up, but they were up like 2k gold before that.
Okay.
And
but I got bad news for you, my dude. Like they made those mistakes even if they were rare, and then they lost. And there's going to be teams that are way stronger than Cloud9. And there's no evidence that they like won't make those mistakes again, and they will. So like discounting that loss, I think is, I'm not sure if that's a fair way to go about it, right?
Right, especially considering versus Clutch, they also went to 5 games, and I think Clutch is good. Don't get me wrong, but we're talking about like G2, SKT.
But do you think that TL played at like the best level they could have played in those 2 sets? I don't think so at all.
How do we know that they're going to play at the best level they could play in those 2 sets, or you know, in whatever sets they end up at Worlds?
Well, like, that's like
consistency is a huge part of it, right? Like a team who can consistently sweep best of 5s, you know, that's like a scary team. A team who, you know, it's like, oh, they can play at their best, and they have these games that are super dominant, but other games where they just like int. You know, and then they lose. Like that to me does not stand out as like, okay, this is like a top tier team, Worlds team.
I mean, I agree with the sentiment that like we saw them beat IG, right? So like they have that ceiling to make semis. I don't think saying TL is going to make semis is like the craziest take of all time, despite how much we're just kind of discrediting it right now. You know, like they could very easily draw a second Chinese seed if they get out of groups in a good spot or something and win a series and make semis. I actually don't think that that's crazy. But if the point is like who can potentially win Worlds, I do think I kind of agree that I don't know how much I really think TL is a contender to win Worlds. Like,
and I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like I think that they're top 4. They're top 4. Realistically, they're a top 4 team in the world, and they could make the semifinals. And like, if you get out of your group as first seed, and I understand like groups haven't been drawn yet, we don't have no idea who's there, but I just think that the only teams like that are good enough like to consistently beat TL and say like a best of 5 would be G2, possibly Fnatic, the 2 Korean teams, SKT Griffin, and then the 2 seed and the second and first seed from China.
So
And I think
only
that,
the
like,
top 2 teams from each of the major regions can beat our top 1 team.
Yeah, but I think that, like, I understand how it sounds, but like
Yeah.
I think that TL is better than the second seeds, but like there's still no we haven't seen any like interregional play.
Sure.
So like I still think that TL is like, if you're gonna go the 4 major regions and you say the first, I think all first seeds are the top team, or like the top 4 in the world.
Okay, so I'm not trying. Yeah, I'm not trying to be a dick. I just thought it was funny.
No, I said it in a really shitty way, to be honest.
No. It's all good. I think what we need to do right now is split up these 2 concepts, because one concept is TL is a top 4 team in the world, and another concept is TL can get top 4 at Worlds. And I don't think Worlds is not designed to show you who, like, the first, second, third, and fourth best teams are in the world. It's designed to show you who the best team is in the world. So, you know, you can have, like, the 8th best team potentially get to the top 4 just because they, like Mark said, get through an easier group and maybe win one game in or win one match in quarterfinals against an easier team. Like H2K got that against
ANX.
ANX, thank you. ANX.
Or even last year, KT versus IG, right? Like KT was, I mean, I have the opinion KT was the second strongest team in the tournament, but
yeah,
you know,
so
bad draw, I guess.
That's
So,
the whole thing. So I actually do agree with the idea that there's a chance that TL gets top 4. I could see that happening. I don't agree with the idea that they are necessarily a top 4 team in the world right now.
okay, I can understand that. You know, not the meta, like the format of Worlds isn't like you know, indicative of that.
Yeah, it's not double elimination. It's not you know the like optimal seeding. It's about crowning the best team that in that tournament that year. It's not necessarily trying to stack rank everyone. So Team Liquid has a shot. I'm with Travis basically 100% on this one. Top 8, top 6, whatever. That's kind of splitting hairs at that point for what we're saying TL is in terms of skill. Can they get top 4 for sure? But they have to actually play well in group stage to actually probably get out number 1, so they can avoid the number 1 seed from other groups. If they're playing another number 1 team from a group, it's really scary. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just optimistic that, you know, with how they played in MSI, and like I know that they didn't play great in groups, but at least in the bracket, they played well. That I think that they can do the same at Worlds this year.
Hey, and what I'll say too is this is more optimistic than I've been before. Like, I don't think I've realistically been like, North America has a top 8 team in it that can get top 4. I don't think I've honestly thought that since like maybe 2014 or 13.
Really? You didn't think that? I feel like there was so much hype around TSM in 2016.
Oh, maybe 2016. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
maybe 2016.
That's a given.
Yeah.
Got a little unlucky in the group, but I mean, last year people, same thing. They didn't think Cloud9 would make top 4, but it happened.
Right, exactly. And whereas this time I'm actually like, all right, well, you know, we had someone in top 4 last year. We made MSI finals. It's not that ridiculous. I'll bite.
The one thing I will say that I'm excited about is, and Peter touched on this in this interview, which is why I made it. He said he was happy that the Clutch series went to 5 games and that the Cloud9 series went to 5 games because he wants to feel the pressure on stage for the team of having to play from behind.
That's what I wanted to say about this call is, like, I actually do think pressure gets to Doublelift a fair amount from his world performances. And that's why I think it's not just a troll, like, hey guys, don't believe in us, haha, wink. Like, I actually think he doesn't want the pressure of being like NA's only hope or something like that on him. But that's just my opinion. I feel like he has struggled at Worlds a number of times, or his teams have at least.
Yeah, 3 out of 4 times. Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he really doesn't want the hype. Who knows?
Yeah. Rastington, thanks so much for calling in. Anything you want to say on the way out?
Just want to thank you guys for bringing me on, and shout out to TV Sonic, really great friend of mine. He's a challenger trying to go pro, so hopefully he makes it one day.
Thanks so much. Have a good one.
Yep.
Mark, maybe we take our break now?
Sure.
All right. So really quickly, want to give a shout out to Alienware. for our sponsors. So I am actually flying to Seattle tomorrow. Actually, tried to get Mark in on this, but we weren't able to make it work. But I will be at PAX for the next 4 days: Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. If you are in PAX, please come say hi. I will be at the Alienware booth, and I will be joined by Saint Vicious. And actually, I have some assets. Let me see if I can find them. And the two of us will be hosting like a whole team fight tactics thing. So let me go ahead and pull up one of the things. I think you can win RP. Yeah, you actually can. So there's going to be all these little matches that you can participate in. I think myself and Saint will be maybe playing in some of them, and some of them will be competing. I don't know. Well, I think whenever Saint and I will do whatever we feel like. And it'll be pretty fun. So I'm looking forward to doing this. Yeah, here's the banner, which I'll just cover Mark's face with. So top 3 attendance per match win Riot points at the PAX West TFT Throwdown. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Oh, I think that it's also Monday. I'm not sure. But from 2 to 6 p.m. So feel free to come by between 2 to 6 p.m. We will be there. Say hi to us. It's going to be fun. And that will be cool. The other thing that they are doing is something called Intel Gamer Days. So I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but Intel runs a thing, I believe, every year called Intel Gamer Days. It's just, I believe it's a couple weeks, generally in September, where they do all sorts of cool promotions with their partners. And of course, Alienware is going to be doing that as well. And in fact, right now, I'll go ahead and put the link into Twitch chat. And if you're watching the VOD, just go over to the Alienware Twitter account. But they are running a giveaway right now. You can win a laptop and a trip out to LA to meet Team Liquid and go to the Video Game Awards. I'll go ahead and put that into the Twitch chat now. But they've been tweeting about it, so if you just go look on their Twitter, I'm sure you'll find it if you're not watching live. And so that's a pretty cool thing that they're doing. They've got some other promotions coming along soon too, but you can win a laptop. That's pretty great. And you can win a trip to meet Doublelift. He's a bit of a dick, but you know, like, you'll have a good time. And it's just kind of a cool thing that they're doing. So a couple things there. Yep. Oh, and also still working on the China content that Brodin and I are going to start releasing soon, that they helped sponsor along with Intel. So there you go. So there are your 3 things. So keep an eye out for the China content. See me at PAX at the TFT booth. It's going to be fun. Saint and I will be there hanging out. And also be sure to check out their giveaway and some of their other promotions for Intel Gamer Days. Thanks, everyone. Oh, Kelby's in the chat. He says clipped. Fantastic.
Hey, Kelby, come on the show.
Yeah, Kelby, do you want to be on the show? You can if you want. Some people have been requesting it. I'm against it, but you know,
I miss Kelby.
We're just gonna sit here in silence until he's not gonna respond. Okay. Anyway, thank you so much to Alienware. Hotline League from Mexico. That's true. So Kelby and I are probably gonna go to Mexico in September, which I'm pretty excited about. We have to figure.
What are you guys doing there?
We're gonna go to, I believe it's Tulum. Tulum. Have you ever heard about this? Tulum, Tulum. It's this like little beachside thing. He and I just feel like we both need an escape.
It's just vacation.
Yeah.
Thanks for the invite, dude.
Before Worlds, I will do that. It's yeah, it's not.
Get you there.
It's not.
All right, next caller.
You could talk to.
Here we go.
Yeah, let's get the next caller. All right. That was a close one. A little awkward. Where were we? Oh, Alex the Cool Guy, Radicate Buttholtz for 10 months. Terminal for 10 months. RebelCon for 19. Oh, Terminal is a tier 2 sub. Thank you. Fretful Winter 2 for the 5 months. Ollie 100 bits. Ronald Dinho 8 for 12 months. 1 whole year. And I am Elvis 4 for 18 months. Patiently waiting for Kelby's return. SOTL Kelby. And then Scoops resub for 5 months in a row. Show cat, please. Scoop says. Freezy, welcome to the show. Where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm calling from Bristol, Virginia.
Bristol, Virginia. Oh, were you on the show last week?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, welcome back. What do you want to talk about on the show this week?
So my take, following up from the finals that happened, I think the last 5 years or so, Cloud9 is overall underperformed given what past rosters it's had. Also, I think Reaper hasn't gotten enough of the blame over the years. and I would say that their international success hasn't made up for the lack of domestic success over that period of time.
Mark, you want to lead this one?
Do I have to?
Okay, I'll lead it then. I just think it's crazy. You know, I think so. You called in with this take kind of last week, right?
I had my take last week was saying that TL playing Sonateric getting kind of dumped on by the community was completely overblown and should never have happened.
Somebody had a take last week, which was if C9 does not win finals, Reaper should be held accountable for the fact that they keep making it to finals and they're not winning, and you know, why are they not? I think it's surprising. So one of the things you listed was with their roster they should be winning finals, right? Is that what you said?
I think over the years with the rosters and the players that they've had, that they should have at least won one, if not made the finals either more or won some.
See, I always feel like Cloud9 overperforms with the rosters they have, not because necessarily like their players are bad, but because they bring up all these rookies and they do really well with it. I mean, everybody now talks about Niski as if he's like in contention for, you know, best mid laner in North America, or at least maybe second behind Jensen, but like nobody was really talking about Niski until he showed up here in North America, you know, this year. Nobody thought it's not like we brought Caps over, right? So like for me, I look at what they do compared to like TL, who just spends a ton of money to get the best players, and TSM, who was able to use their brand to get the best players. Both of those two teams obviously have won a ton of finals, and I feel like the fact that Cloud9 has made it to finals so many times is a testament to their capabilities as an organization, given that they don't ever go out and get like star players.
I think kind of a counter to that, I do think for sure that Cloud9 is the best org of getting the maximum potential out of their players, for sure. But like, I kind of wrote down some of the past names that they've had in the past, either at one time or multiple of these players together. They've had Jensen, Svenskeren right now, Impact. I think you mentioned Niski earlier. They've had Smoothie. Like, these are like players either at the time or have gone on to be top 1, 2, or 3 in their position. Like, even Sven was the MVP this year. Like, I don't know. I get,
but he faced off with like Sven was the all-team jungler, and the team he faced was the other 4 dudes who made all-team, right?
Yeah,
Sorry,
for
continue.
sure. I think, I don't know, I thought even by the results of this finals being a 3-2, I thought this finals, the matchup was a lot closer than people thought, other than, I would say, the bot lane. I would say that was pretty TL favored, but everywhere else was either slightly TL favored to kind of even, depending on what the picks were going to be, I would say.
But isn't that reflected in what ended up happening, right? It was like you look across and you're like, okay, TL is either even or has a slight edge in all these positions except for the bot lane where they've got a bigger edge. And what we saw was a fairly close 5-game series and a best of 5, right? Like the match reflected what you consider to be like the overall power level of the players.
But I'm not quite sure I agree that they had an edge in all those roles. They had it in, well, bot lane for sure, and then top lane's debatable.
Well, he said edge or equal.
For TL?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't agree with that. I think their mid jungle is better, and I think their top is close. That's the only equal one, and then they have a better bot lane. So it's pretty even, right?
Wait, are you saying that you think Jensen x Smithy is better than
No, I'm
Sven?
saying they're worse than Sven and Niski.
Okay. That
Like
I was saying individual matchups, but yeah, 2v2, I agree with you. I was just specifically talking about individual matchups.
Sure. I mean, there's no point. I mean, I don't really think it matters when you talk about it like that, because that's not how the game's played. It's not like people just play in a vacuum. It's fine if you're just like debating a player list, like who's better, Jensen or Niski. But like in terms of what a coach has to work with, or like how a matchup is going to get played out, you have to factor in the other things. That's a separate topic. On the like Reaper deserves more criticism, I can sort of see an angle, but I think it's a little weird, and here's why. Like, there's different parts of coaching. It's not just like what happens on the field or fields of justice, Summoners, or whatever the fuck it's called these days. Like he helping level players up, like Travis is saying, with Niski, and finding talent from the academy squad and bringing them forward, right? Like there's all these things that go into coaching, and having a whole system that works and being able to get the most out of your players over the course of a season, and then managing hype or nerves or something at Worlds, and that's why they perform well, you know, and having a strong identity. Like I never feel like I'm confused of what C9 is trying to do with their roster the way I feel about TSM sometimes. I'm like, how are we trying to win the fucking game? Like I never have that question with C9's roster. And I think those are all huge credits to Reaper.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, what doesn't fall into that category is drafting. Day of drafting, right? And like strategy for beating that specific team in a best of 5. And I think maybe that's where you can start throwing some criticism at him more so than these other things about like actually building the team up. But I also say that he does have weirder drafts than a lot of people, which is more likely to be kind of boom or bust. And so when he loses these series, you really think about the times that he kind of fucked up the draft. Like game 1 draft of that series was fucking terrible, right? Like I don't know how you come in and your first prep, this is the most prep you've put into any of your drafts, right? And TL gets best in slot champions for every single role. I think it was maybe 4 out of 5. There's maybe one that wasn't like straight up the best.
I think it was all 5.
Yeah, it's insane, right? You look at that and you're like, well, clearly they had some weird counter picks and they tried to make it work or something, but it was like, what the fuck was that you just gave TL? Like not only best champions in the meta, but also some of their best champions all around. Nutty. But then he also has some really clever drafts that help get them wins as well. And that's the same thing that happened in that WE series. I think it was the game 5 draft. He fucked it up pretty bad. But he also had some really hard wins in the draft as well. But no one ever talks about those. They just talk about his failures. And I think it has to do with his overall drafting style, where he tries to do more clever things than just other people might try and do. And so it does stick out in your mind when he comes up short. You know, so I think that might be part of what it is. Because that WE series, I remember him popping off on his stream or maybe on Twitter or something about how like coaches get way too much blame for their drafts and stuff like that, because you know the players are a part of them too. And so like this is another series where I feel like you look at that game 1 draft and you want to flame the fuck out of it, which is probably fair, but he also had some other good drafts as well, which I think were like the game 3 draft. The game 4 draft, actually they should have won. It was actually a really clever draft, all things considered, but Niski kind of fucked it all up by playing too selflessly for a tank Poppy when you're supposed to be the other damage strat as the Kiana. And he built like Hex Drinker Moby Boots, which like eliminates your kill threat on a lot of champions. And like, that's not really Reaper's fault right there. That was more Niski making an in-game decision to go roam his face off to get a Poppy versus Aatrox like super fed, right? So like these are some things where like I struggle with how much blame to put on Reaper in these, because I agree he has these drafts that really stick out in your mind as like, well, he threw that game from Champ Select, but he also does some really good ones too. So I guess that's where it's kind of a non-answer, unfortunately. Like, I can't.
No, yeah, I got you.
I don't know. You know, I'd have to really like. I feel like I'd have to learn what's going on in the team environment backstage to be like, was this Reaper being like, this is the draft, guys, game 1 prep, here we go, or like did a player panic and be like, give me this counter pick or something, or like I don't know what happened.
See, I think about it too from just like a roster budget standpoint, right? If next year you gave Reaper a 200 to 250%, or 200 to 250% of the budget he has right now for that main roster, what could he pull off? Because that's the interesting thing, and I hope that someday the salaries for all the players get released, or at least maybe even like total spend for the rosters, because, and again, I say this not to discredit TL. Like, good on TL for being an organization that is so committed to getting the top talent. But, like, what you saw in that best of 5 was a team who has, like, 2.5 times the budget from a salary perspective on the 5 players versus, you know, the team that doesn't. And for me, I think I have just always been impressed with what Reaper can do with not as much as like some of the other teams.
And the other way to look at it is maybe, you know, like the skill set that it takes to achieve like the highest level with like really expensive, egotistical players might be a different skill set than the one he has. I would love to see Reaper go to some like shit team, with like no budget. Like, what could he do with like Optic or one of those teams, or what could he have done with 100 Thieves? Like these teams that were really struggling to find an identity.
100 Thieves had a ton of budget though.
Okay, so maybe that's not a good example, but like
I think a good example is like when
like
I think there was a split or two when Kane coached Team Liquid before they got their players, and that was a totally different look for TL.
Yeah, exactly. Like I have a lot of faith. I don't know because I haven't seen it. Like maybe Reaper with like a super star-studded all-star roster really does have what it takes as well there. But I would trust him with any like middling roster in the entire league. Like I just feel like he would be so good for any org that is just like, we want to make playoffs and do well. It's like, that's your guy right there.
By the way, Kieser Soys 117 or whatever in chat.
Kaiser Sose, for the guy from that really famous movie, The Usual Suspects.
I haven't watched it. Anyway.
What?
Well, now I can't because it's Kevin Spacey, right?
That is the rule.
This person is having like an aneurysm in chat. He's like, he or she, I shouldn't assume. It's like, they already have a roster with top players. The players at every role are top 2 or 3, and then they have the MVP. Yes, that is true. But how many of these players were that before they joined Cloud9? Like, that is kind of my point, which is they are not bringing in, like, they did not pick up Doublelift whenever TSM dropped Doublelift, right? Like, they didn't, well, they lost Jensen, and they had to go find talent, and they didn't pull like a let's get Bjergsen or let's get Caps or let's get Perks or something like that. Instead, they bring in Niski, and Sven Skaren had been kicked from TSM and kind of disgraced. Like, people thought he was, I believe, if I recall correctly, the weakest link on that team, and now he's the MVP, right? And so that is why that is my point, right? People, I'm not saying they don't have top players. I'm saying they make top players, which I think no other org can really say that, like TSM tries to do that every fucking year with a different jungler and they fail. TL just bought the players. Golden Guardians wanted to do that with, Steve just subbed. I mean, TL makes great players too. Golden Guardians wanted to do that by picking up some like economy players last year and build it out, and that failed miserably. So that is kind of my point, right? That's always why I have a hard time with any conversation like this new dialogue around let's hold Reaper accountable, because I'm just like, that dude works miracles over there, and I'm always impressed. Nobody knew who the fuck Zazel was, and then like, whoa! I know he's had like a questionable year, but what?
Apparently, people who watch Academy who Zazel was.
Yeah,
everyone had their
watches Academy, Mark.
I would hope the GMs and coaches watch.
Right.
Licorice,
my point is,
Zazel definitely were all on everyone's radar in NA. Now, would Zazel have become as good as he did? Who knows? Like, there's a number of guys people have their radars on.
I don't think he would have. Like,
no, I agree with your point. Sorry, I was just being a little critical for no reason.
Yeah. Oh, really, Mark? I've never known you to do that. So I don't know. That's kind of my thing. I guess I just disagree. Like, I disagree.
No,
with
I totally get where you're coming from. If I could just like have like a quick, just like one
Sure.
like 2-sentence like thing. So I think you're absolutely right. What Reaper, and by the way, when I'm saying he doesn't get enough of like the blame, I don't think he's a bad coach. I think he's a fantastic coach, number 1 or 2 coach like in the league. I don't think they should fire him. I'm not trying to flame him, but you're absolutely right. He's like helped turn these players that not as many people have heard of into one of the tops in their roles. But what I'm saying is, once they have gotten them to that point, they haven't produced as much as I would like to have seen them produce and achieve. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I can totally understand the idea. Like, the argument, I think there's a solid argument here, which is, why is it that this team can overperform at Worlds but can't ever clutch it out in the finals despite how many times they get there? And is that something where like, and why is it that Reaper hasn't been able to solve that problem? I think that's a considerable question. It's hard for me to feel anything other than that. It's hard for me to feel anything other than just being really impressed with that dude.
And to be fair, in Worlds main stage play, not including play-ins where they win series, he's only ever won one best of series, right? And that was the one last year, because otherwise they would have made semifinals more than once. So
yeah, they've made it out of groups every year except 1 year, and they've made it out of the quarters once.
Yeah,
right, and that's really tough competition. I don't want to read too far into this point, but just like if you wanted to say his best of 5 track record versus difficult opponents,
now you're picking a fight with Reaper. Last time it was Sneaky, now it's Reaper, Mark. I don't know why.
How am I picking a fight? I said I didn't even have an opinion on this. I just said he takes more risks in draft. I think that leads it to be easier to be critical.
Breezy, thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to say as we say goodbye?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for doing the show. Thanks for having me on. In no way am I a Cloud9 hater. I'm an NA fan. They're going to Worlds. I want them to do well. I'm only saying this because I want them to succeed. But again, thanks for having me on the call. I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good one.
You too.
All right, moving on to the next caller. Steve's in the chat. I don't know if Steve is still here, but
he said he knew who Zazel was.
Yeah, he knew who Zazel was. Like, when I say everyone knew,
goodbye.
I don't mean team owners and GMs. I mean like these are not. Everyone knows who Caps is. Nobody knew who Zazel was. Also, Steve sent me a DM earlier today, and he was like, "Hey, you free for a quick call?" And then I didn't notice it for like 45 minutes, and then I was like, "Yeah, I'm free," and I never heard back from him again. Now he's in my Twitch chat, and now I don't know what he wanted to talk to me about. Maybe it was something bad. Maybe he's like I was at the Alienware training facility today. Maybe he's like, "We don't want you around here anymore." That's what I want to talk to you. A lot of people have been seeing you around. We don't need you here. He says it's important. This dude's stressing me out.
What's that? You're in trouble with Steve?
No, yeah, Steve was supposed to call me. He reached out, wanted to call me, and I was like, uh-oh. Because Steve doesn't... I feel like Steve is not the type of person that's going to call me and be like, "Hey, dude, I've been, just been thinking about how we should hang out sometime." I one time tried to get dinner with them, and it never materialized. I eventually gave up. Tweeted at him this week, was like, "Please host a pool party to celebrate, because Kobe and I both want to go to the pool." No reply. Then he DMs me, says he wants to call me. I'm like, oh god, this is not going to be good news. And then when I noticed, I was like, yeah, call me back. He never called me. Now he's in Twitch chat saying it's important. So this is going to stress me out.
Just take the call right now. Just don't mute. Put him on speaker.
Actually, having Steve on for my call would be like great insight.
He says we're having a pool party on Friday. You're invited. Sorry, caller, please stop for a second. This is important. Steve. I'm with Saint at PAX on Friday doing stuff for Alienware. You have to move this to the next Friday.
Yeah, I'm in Palm Springs too. You have to move it to Monday on Labor Day.
Steve.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll tell Kobe and he can go. We have 70 people coming.
Well, you'll have 72 if you move it
tweet?
to Monday. I want to go to the pool party, dude. What the fuck?
God, life is just coming at me so hard lately. Heisendinger, please have a good topic, because I need something to pick me up.
Oh god.
Where are you calling from?
So I used to call from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I moved to Jacksonville, Florida. So
Back to where?
Jacksonville, Florida.
Jacksonville, Florida. Okay, well, hopefully the move was a good one.
No, I came. I've been here for a week, and a hurricane's already going to slap me in the face. So that's fun.
Jesus. All right, this is not the... I asked you to lift me up, and you're not...
Let's get to the topic, huh?
Anyway, yeah, sorry. So just for a little history lesson for like my topic, because a lot of fans might not know this. Since Worlds 2014, teams have essentially, regardless of where Worlds actually is located, and sometimes they'll just like boot camp in Korea just because. We see this like literally all the time. It's like not a surprise. You'll consider like esports. But for this year's Worlds, and I actually tweeted you about this, Travis, because I thought it was really interesting. Actually came out and said, we're boot camping in EU. And I was curious, is this going to be true for TL as well? And it came out that TL are boot camping there as well. And
yeah, NA teams are boot camping there.
Yeah, so yeah. So third place obviously is going to be camped there. I think that this is not just like a random one-off, but more so we're going to see teams in the country that Worlds is just being held in, choosing that over just Korea. And I think this is due to the fact that, and this is not me trying to slight NA whatsoever, we're seeing that this Worlds, probably for the first time since like forever in League, the major teams are fielding multiple, or at least arguably multiple contenders for the Cup. So you've got EU, you've got G2, Fun Plus, I think they're the front runners. And then Korea, they're fielding SKT. And then even NA, I'm sure they're diehard TL fans. I would argue that TL is definitely a contender. I think we're going to see...
mentioning TSM? They're going to win Gauntlet, and they're going to get through.
Honestly, I'm a huge TSM fan. Like, I'm diehard TSM since, like, of the org. TSM.
Yeah, I'm just teasing.
Yeah, you're good. I think that teams are going to start, or at least boot camping in the country that Worlds is held in, outside of just, let's just go boot camp in Korea, because it's probably economically more viable.
Sure. Yes.
And I think that's where I kind of was going with that. You guys are welcome to take over from here. I don't want to like talk for an hour and a half.
No, you're good. You're good. Don't worry. Okay, so the boot camp stuff. So your take is this might be because there is no longer just a single dominant region like there was before with Korea, and we have seen other strong regions. We no longer need to have these boot camps that are taking place in Korea. For instance, if the Worlds is taking place in Europe or it's taking place in North America, maybe the boot camps happen here. Worth noting, by the way, that China and Korea are not planning on coming to Europe to boot camp there. They are instead going to be boot camping from home.
I was actually going to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the reason why they're not doing that is because it's not economically feasible for them. Because those
teams can afford to be in Europe. It's not. I don't think it's an economics thing. I think it's just like, I don't think they feel like they need to. Like, why? They can get good practice with each other without having to travel to another place. Mark, you have a different take?
No, I was going to agree. I don't think it's an economic issue at all. I think it's just like, hey, we like Chinese food, whatever they're used to eating. They don't want to live in Europe for a month when they can stay where they are and scrim Korean teams.
Yeah.
Like, I think Korea and China, I don't know if the Chinese teams even go to Korea to boot camp. Or
no, I don't think they do. I'm pretty sure you can play on the server from...
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, I think the money is not the problem. It's just a preference for what they think will leave them in the best state of mind for a long tournament.
You don't need to come to Europe to scrim NA and EU teams whenever you have Korean and Chinese teams there, right? Like that's the thing. So I'm really excited about this. I think it's super cool. So in my interview with Double-ish, but he said this a lot to me before too, like he hates doing Korean boot camps, and I've heard this from other players too, that Korean boot camps are not great and they're exhausting and tiresome. I bet you TL will be boot camping out of TL has like a dedicated Netherlands office that I'm sure they'll be boot camping out of in Amsterdam. I think it's in Amsterdam. So that's cool. I don't know where Cloud9 and our third place team will be set up, but I think that's really awesome, and I'm really excited for what it means for the Worlds meta, because you're going to have these teams coming in looking entirely different. I mean, I guess play-ins will potentially give us a little bit of a glimpse at what is good or not, but probably not. I don't know. Mark, what's your take on that?
I would expect that if you're boot camping versus Europe your whole time, and then everyone comes over for that portion, play-ins and stuff, I doubt you're going to start scrimming those teams, right? You wouldn't want to give away your prep to your opponents.
It probably depends on what groups look like, right? Like, because you could...
Well, so you're not going to scrim... Like, if I'm an NA team and I have a European team in my group, I'm not going to scrim that European team. But I've already been scrimming the other European teams that whole time, so I don't risk giving up any extra strategy, necessarily. Versus, I haven't scrimmed Korean and Chinese teams. They don't know what we're doing. Everyone kind of talks, right? As much as people... I don't know why people make a big deal out of it. Like, oh, they leaked our scrims. Everyone leaks scrims. Get over it. Even when it's not like a, hey, here's a spreadsheet of their pick ban. You might be like, oh, we scrimmed IG. How'd that go? Their Rumble shit on us. They might say stuff like that. So I think teams will stay separate even after teams come over, because what was the point of being separate then anyways? But I'm excited for two reasons. Like you said, the split metas that we get to see, as well as like I think this is a much better chance of actually beating them where we are now in the current like landscape of League of Legends. I can see the perspective that we had in 2013 and 2014 where it felt like we were just ass loads worse than them.
Yeah. Yeah, you had Monte Cristo getting CLG to fly to Korea to boot camp for 1 week before playoffs in North America,
and then losing
right?
to
Like
Curse fucking Gaming. Who would lose to Curse? But yeah, like that stuff was whatever. That's maybe a little excessive, but like the idea that you have so much ground to make up that like you're not trying to scrim there to beat the Korean team. You're trying to scrim there to beat the LMS team and the Chinese team and the European team to get as best practice as you can because you just want to get out of groups. And I think in that world, going to where the highest competition is so you can learn the most makes sense because you're not trying to hold your hand back to beat Korea in a best of 5. You're trying to get the fuck out of groups, right? But now that feels like we've kind of moved past that part where we legitimately have a good chance of beating some of these teams, I think you should hold your cards tighter to your chest. And that's how you're realistically going to beat them, is having your own little meta, your own surprise picks, things they're not ready for. And
you don't think... I feel like if Fun Plus lands in Europe a week before, like TL's not going to, and they're not in TL's group, TL is definitely going to want to scrim Fun Plus, right? Like
why?
Because they're a really good team.
Wait, if I could just...
Yeah, go ahead.
If Fun Plus finished first, if I remember group rules correctly, they wouldn't even be in groups with...
Yeah,
TL,
I mean, that's
right?
what I'm saying. Like
that's his point, is that like if the best team in the world lands, you don't have to play them in your group. Why wouldn't you scrim them, right?
Oh, okay, I misunderstood. I'm sorry.
All right,
Well,
no
that's
problem.
Well, I kind of assumed...
Is that your cat?
He's right on my camera.
All right, go ahead, Heisendigger.
Oh, well, I kind of assumed that that's where y'all were going with this to begin with, was TL and G2 are definitely going to come out and probably just, I wouldn't say exclusive scrim partners, but that we are saying that TL is better than Fnatic, which, by the way, previous caller, I do agree with you. I think TL is better than all the others.
Okay, but yeah, sorry, what's your point?
I was going to say the chances of kind of this like meta that y'all are talking about, wouldn't that just go away the moment a team like FunPlus or like, let's say SKT finish first, like SKT land, and they just start scrimming each other for a week?
That's why I don't think they'll do it. That's why I disagree with Travis's point, is what is the point of scrimming in Europe other than you don't have to travel as much, which is a fair reason. If you're just going to scrim the other regions as soon as they land, and then your strategies get leaked and what you're doing gets leaked. Because it's going to get leaked. Like, you can't be so naive and think like, scrim FunPlus, there's no way they're just going to talk to other Chinese teams.
But Reaper and Dodo never mentioned that as being a reason. Like, no, and during any of the explanations of this stuff, it was never like, we want to keep our tech secret. It was like, we think it's a better scrim environment. We can get better scrims in Europe, or just as good scrims, and it's more enjoyable, and then we'll already be adapted to like the environment. Why fly to Korea and then force ourselves to adapt?
I think you effed. Did I F? Who effed here?
I think
no, it's Travis.
Travis is effed?
Yeah, Travis.
I'm back. I was just saying, Dodo and Reaper never mentioned that as the reason. But you think they're just being political about it?
Potentially. I mean, I could be off, and if I'm off, I'm off. But I honestly don't like the idea of that. Like, if you think that you can get just as good as scrims in Europe, then why would you scrim them when they land? If you already think the quality of your scrims is fine, why potentially expose your champion pools and stuff like that to people? Because
you can get maybe, I mean...
But you just already said
the best team in the world. I feel like you take that.
I think I see what I think Travis's point only works if the teams are smart enough, which I don't think we've ever seen historically happen. Know everything in scrims. But I see where Travis is going. He's like, okay, well, we're going to EU to get the best possible scrims. Okay, well, a better team to shut up, or just as good a team shut up.
Yeah. So. It's hard to say.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where, in my personal opinion, and the coaches might not agree, your team is not going to like fundamentally improve massively in the week that they show up and take some scrims. You're not going to get that much better in a week. you know, this like a week of scrims is to stay sharp and refine your strategies. It's not like FunPlus showed up and ass blasted our bot lane or something like that, and now we need to reevaluate all our picks, because like the reality, like you're so low on time, and like, you know, if they're doing some really crazy meta stuff, I think if you think that Europe's scrims are good enough to put you in Worlds form already, then just keep scrimming the European teams and try to generate an advantage with this different meta potentially.
Okay.
I don't think that unless you're like the opinion's already wrong, that like the real reason they're going to Europe is they don't want to fly to two places and just have better quality of life, which is another totally fair reason. But if you think Europe's scrims are good enough for the month that you're going to be there, why in the last week share everything you've been working with the teams that are coming over?
Well, okay, regardless of if it ends up happening or not, it is, I think the scrim stuff is really exciting. I'm super happy that it's happening, and I am happy that the boot camp stuff is not like this. I think this is a pivotal moment in League history where it's like the Asian dynasty has potentially ended, and we can now start adjusting. We don't have to play by those rules anymore. So,
yeah.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think, yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely in the camp of I like the split. I hope we keep doing it in the future, and I think you should keep your shit protected as much as you can.
Eisendinger, thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to say on the way out?
So I'm sorry, Travis. I don't want to be that guy. So you actually are pronouncing Khaled's name incorrectly. It is Khaled, it's not Khalid. I know a lot of people with like that same last name, and they get really frustrated when it's pronounced incorrectly.
Hey, thanks so much for the call.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, have a great night, fellas.
Moving on to the next caller. Mandalorian 5584 for 1 year, and Schleppard for 18 months, year and a half. Ventus Official for 19, Pluto 7443 for 17. Liquid 112 has been subbed for 19 months. Thank you. Big Angry Hobo reset for 14 months in a row. Says Dell.com/Travis, Dell.com/Travis, Dell.com/Travis. Scoops still wants to see the cat. That's where we are at.
I'll just put it right here. He's tweaking out, so like he'll probably just run by a bunch.
What head is here? What head? What do you want? Or where are you calling from?
I am calling from Plymouth, Michigan.
Nice.
A suburb of Detroit is the best way to put it.
Did you go to finals?
Yes.
Nice. What did you think?
I liked it. $70 for 10 games. I say it was worthwhile.
Yeah, I guess that's pretty good. It's less than $10 a game. Didn't even think about that. What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
I'm going to talk about how I think Froggen is one of the top 2 mid laners in NA, because the stats support this, and it seems that the MVP voting supported at least these top 3.
Mark, go ahead.
Hold on, I gotta pull up the MVP voting thing real quick.
Feel free to elaborate.
In his stats outside of KDA, which I think has to do with the fact that he's had questionable bot lanes and has to make plays for his team, because he's just consistently been the linchpin for whatever team he's on while having questionable bot lanes.
All right, well, so I want to preface this with, I feel like he's one of the people I end up, you know, quote unquote, hating on the
Mark
most.
Flames Froggen any chance he can get.
It's because, like some other players who have not found success in recent history, there's a legion of people, you know, for whatever reason, still cling on to the idea that they're as good as they were at their prime. And then, like, I'd argue that other side, which makes you, of course, look like a hater. And so I'm obviously, historically, always been a Froggen hater for that reason, where I don't think he's top 3 anymore. And I don't want that to become he's not good, he's bad. I think I had him 5th, you know, so like we're kind of splitting hairs here. You know, I think I had him 6th, 5th, something like that. You know, so it's not like I'm saying he's trash and shouldn't be in the league, but I am definitely not in the camp that he's top 3, and I think that is a huge overrating of him. And like I definitely agree he's great at laning, and those are pretty much the majority of stats people would look at, or team fighting. Also fair. Like I think mechanically he's great, but I don't think he has the other parts of the game in terms of playmaking, especially in the mid to late game, to boost the team up to the level that he should be able to if he really was the third best team. And like, I really struggle to believe that the second or third best mid laner in North America has made playoffs once in the last 5 years and hasn't won a playoff series since Alliance, I think is right. So like, I just historically like have a really hard time containing those two things in my head, because if he really was, the cats are off camera. I'll bring it back to me. Because if he was, and there was nothing else wrong with his game, some top team would have signed him. Like someone would have been like, yes, this is the guy. And people say it's because he's too loyal to Echo Fox. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. But even in this season, like it doesn't have to be purely anecdotal, in my opinion. Like go watch what Golden Guardians did around Baron, and especially in the back half of the split. Like he would always split away from his team and like look for pickoffs onto people, and a bunch of times he almost gets himself killed or outright does get himself killed. Like the TSM game, he was like between splitting and using his TF to go bot lane and like go back to Baron, and like TSM was on wards, and like he just took the really unsafe path and got himself killed at Baron. And there's like a bunch of those kinds of plays. He also sometimes just chases kills. Like these kinds of things to me are why I have an issue with him. He seems to have a different champion pool than everyone else, which is okay if you're winning like consistently with it. But like, I don't think that Golden Guardians was so bad this split, so uncarryable as some people like Thorin, for example, make it out to be, that like he had the worst jungler and bot lane in the league, and like that's the only reason he didn't make playoffs. I think he's good. I think he's a good player, but I just can't believe that he is secretly second or third and has been for the past 5 years and just hasn't found success for some reason. It's like,
would you say he's top 5?
For the most part, top 5 or top 6, hovering around there.
Because it's hard, because like Crown also had a pretty good year, right?
I mean, that's an example. I would be like, okay, well, you don't think Jensen's the best. You don't think Niski is the best. You probably don't think Bjergsen's
Actually,
the
well,
best.
here we can ask Whathead. Who do you? It's like you said, Froggen's top 2. Who's the other one?
I think it's Jensen, honestly, this year.
You would rank Froggen over Niski and Bjergsen and Crown.
You see, top 2 might be pushing it. Top 3 is about where I can start pushing the argument.
All right. I love it when somebody comes on the show. I'm not making fun of you. It's always funny when somebody comes on the show and they're like, I think TSM is top 2 in the world, and then we're like, well, what about this? And they're like, maybe top 4. Anyway.
But like either way, like no offense to Optic's side lanes, but here we go. They're pretty fucking bad. Not horrible, but like most of them are bottom 6. Right, bottom 7, bottom 8, depending on how low you want to go on some of your opinions on people like Big and Dokla and Arrow. Meteos is probably a top 4, top 5 jungler, and then with Crown, they managed to secure 6th. Right?
Yeah.
Like, what makes that team so much easier to carry than Golden Guardians, who has arguably a top 3 top laner? Contract's not so great. Definitely holy shit, Ole. Sorry, definitely Ole got benched, and then they bring in a new bot lane. If you go back and watch they actually got half their wins in the first 4 weeks with Ole and definitely. And the person who carried those games the hardest in their wins was actually Ole. His Tahm Kench kept getting through. No one was banning his Tahm Kench, and he shit on the games with it. Like they won most of their games actually with Ole carrying. It wasn't Froggen. So like, that's why I'm like, I just can't buy it. I can't buy what you're selling.
Okay.
Whathead, do you have any thoughts?
Yep. The reason top 3 comes into play is because I think Niski sometimes has questionable games where he's just he's pushing kills too hard sometimes, gets caught in the weirdest positions.
I mean, that happens, but that happens to Froggen too. Like I said, if you go and watch their Baron plays, he gets caught around Baron like very frequently. And he had like, you know, that Aurelia game in the side lane where he got absolutely trashed on. Pretty forgettable Talon performances. You know, he struggled to play the meta champs well, outside of like Corki, arguably. He has a very unique champion pool where like a lot of people are playing Sylas, Aurelia, Akali. You know, he has 0 Akali games all split long. Like his champion pool is not good for the meta.
Yeah, I have to agree with that much.
Yeah, I would take Niski over him hands down. And that's before getting into whatever we don't know about how people are as teammates and leaders and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
Hey, Whathead, thanks so much for calling in. Anything you want to say as we say goodbye?
No, thanks for having me. It was a great time.
Yeah, thanks for calling.
Cool, thanks for coming on.
All right, let's take a quick break really quickly. Talk about our second sponsor of the night, Movement. Movement, so I'm going to put on. So they make these really nice, they make several different things. They make these glasses. Actually, first off, do me a favor. You're watching live. Go to movement.com/Travis. There's a banner below the stream. If you go click that, that would actually help me out a ton. You can go take a look at some of their stuff while I'm talking about them. And if you're watching on the YouTube vid, why don't you click the link in the description as well. So these are their Everscroll blue light glasses, which you can get quite nice for using on the computer. It kind of helps you out with that stuff. But also, besides this, they also make the sunglasses that if you, I don't know if some of you might follow me on Instagram or whatever, but basically the sunglasses I wear all the time, I got from Movement. And they're quite stylish. This is an LA-based company, and they make watches. And I've been wearing this watch a ton lately. I need to get the other watch that they sent me. I don't know if you guys can see that super well on camera, but it's quite nice. They also sent me this one, which I need to get sized, bring it somewhere. But some fantastic stuff. Mark is going to order some stuff off of their website as well soon. We're going to get him hooked up. But they make some really cool stuff. And again, they're based out of Los Angeles, which is quite nice. And the thing that I like about it is a lot of their stuff, I mean, actually all their stuff, it's quite affordable in comparison to some of the more expensive watch brands that are out there. So you can get cool stuff. It's stylish, it's neat, and it's affordable. You know, by the way, their sunglasses, I'm probably going to order a couple different pairs as well because I like the pair that I have, but there's so many cool looks on this website that you can check out. You can try all sorts of different things. And again, I mean, you can get nice glasses for nice sunglasses, $60 here. They've got some of their stuff. And by the way, you use that link that I just gave you. Again, the link is in the description of the YouTube video. It's down below the Twitch stream, movement.com. It's mvmt.com/Travis. 15% off. So then you're saving even more on your purchase. So anyway, I know you guys are great at, thanks Steve for mentioning a competitor. I know you guys are great at supporting my sponsors and saying really nice things about them, which is quite frankly the way I'm able to secure them. And I just appreciate if you guys check them out. You know, even maybe you click over on the website and you say, hey, this isn't for me. That's fine. I get it. It's not going to be for everybody who watches the show, but even just checking them out actually helps me out a lot because shows that you guys are taking a look at my sponsors and helping to support the show that way, which I really appreciate. So thank you so much to Movement for sponsoring the show. They make some cool stuff. I'd love it if you guys went and checked them out. Moving on, we got 2 more callers. Oh, Liquid in chat says, I'm buying a dark blue Movement right now. There you go.
Hey!
Maybe he's using my 15% off thing. They also sponsor some other cool people, including Fastfee. They've sponsored her even longer than they've sponsored this show, so they support some other great people in the scene. Mark is grabbing the next caller. We've got 2 more to go before the show runs down. I'm going to go get some dinner. I'm excited about it.
Hello.
Hello. Detective Raichu, not Detective Pikachu, you've evolved.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
Where are you calling from?
Miami, Florida.
Miami, Florida. I want to go back to Miami. That was actually one of my favorite finals locations.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do you want to talk about of the show?
I kind of want to talk about Ballers. Mostly because I watched the most recent episode on the 25th or whatever it was, where they kind of gave, I think, League and Riot, or the LCS in general, a really bad representation because it was only on there for about a minute, and they were just basically calling like the pro players, or the fake pro players, nerds, and it just gave it really a bad negative vibe, where I feel like they have so much potential there, especially in the aspect where so many of us are interested in, especially trying to learn about the money side of it, which is what Ballers really goes into about football and all these other sports. And I feel like it's bringing a lot of negative publicity that League doesn't really need.
So I've not seen the episode. Have you, Mark?
Nope.
Okay.
Can't
well,
say I
that's going to make
have.
it difficult to address, unfortunately, your specific topic. You know though that it's like almost like a season-long arc, though, right?
Oh yeah, I'm just saying it seems like a bad way to introduce it already, though.
Oh, okay. I see.
So
I
think
actually wonder if they are not doing that intentionally. Again, I haven't seen the part of that episode, but I would not be surprised if they are doing it intentionally, because I think, the general audience that are watching the episode will probably have that first reaction. So you can kind of like, oh yeah, like, if they came out and they're like, this is all real and cool and awesome, people might have this like immediate reaction to it that's they're kind of pushing back against that storyline on the show. But if the characters go through like a realization, maybe you can explain to me what actually happened in that without maybe giving too many big spoilers. Like, what's sort of the
well, the main thing that I thought was the best that they represented was the fans. So they showed a little bit of like cosplay of what it looks outside, what the inside looks like and stuff. And then, not to give too much away, but like, let's say ex-athlete is kind of insinuating that, oh, he can be a gamer because it's not that hard or whatever, and then they just basically go on to insult the esports players.
I mean, and that's most of what's in that episode in terms of the esports.
I mean, it's about maybe a minute.
Because the teaser that they showed at the LCS finals makes it look like there's a lot more storyline where they're like, oh shit, like these guys can be like really impressive. It seems like there's a lot more to come in the season.
Yeah, it kind of seems like the WWE crossover kind of that we had earlier this season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
Go ahead, Mark.
Sorry, you go. No, you finish.
I was just going to say, I mean, it's a show about like jocks with a ton of money, right? That's sort of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is jocks with a lot of money. That would be their reaction at first. And so I'm hoping that the storyline expands over the course of the season to be more inclusive of and more accepting of the whole thing, which I'm imagining it will, since like you can't do a whole season of people calling them jocks or nerds and all that stuff. I have faith that it's going to get a lot better.
Yeah, I would hope so too. I think like I can understand the arc like Travis was describing, where you make it more relatable to the average person by having the mindset of like, oh, it's really fucking lame, hot nerds, and people kind of laugh before they keep exposing them to it more, and hopefully the viewer goes through the same kind of arc as the characters who learn to appreciate it, and it's not that nerdy. That said, if they don't do that, I can agree. Where like if they really don't have like a normal gamer character, it's just going to be weird. Like Svenskeren and Golden Glue are like ripped dudes who are pretty normal, all things considered. They're not like basement dwelling, hot pocket. Yeah, hot pocket eating.
He's ripped.
Yeah. So like, I agree that it might not, as like a viewer of esports who's being like, oh, hey, we're in Ballers, let's check it out. It might not be the best introduction, but then again, like the show is not written for us. It's written for people to get acquainted with us, and hopefully it does a better job down the road. But I don't know. If it doesn't, I'll be pretty disappointed. We'll have to have you follow up with us at the end of the season.
Yeah, you could
give a recap.
Yeah, you could be like, this week this thing happened. I mean, I guess maybe I'll start watching it at some point in time. I just haven't. I mean, we were in Detroit and stuff, so I wasn't really worried about it.
Yeah, it just seems like a huge miss because they're not, or well, obviously it was just a minute, but they're not even including like a lot of the actual pro players, which is what they do with all the other sports, which kind of brings
I've
in the
heard
celebrities and stuff.
I've heard some of the LCS pros make cameos.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah,
I
would
hope
keep
so.
watching
You know,
because I think there's some
Watch out
stuff.
for the HBO's lawsuit.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, look, you could see them in the trailer that they teased at the LCS finals. Did you see the
Good
trailer
save.
they teased at the LCS
Good
finals?
save. Anyways,
I did see it, but I did not see the part in which you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about pro players' acting performances, so I can understand HBO's hesitation to feature them too much, unless it's in like a more normalized setting for the pro player. It feels like if anyone's going to be it, from what they said, like Rick Fox feels like a sizable portion of the plot line maybe for this season.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Which would
based
be
off nothing.
fascinating, by the way, given all the stuff that's going on.
That said, he had regardless of what you think about Rick Fox, his ability to be an ambassador to people who are coming from more of a traditional sports. Yeah. So I think he would be a good, given he also has an acting background, like a great character to be used to be like, hey, cameo, Rick Fox has already been here for a while.
Yeah.
Glad you guys are finally getting into it, kind of thing.
Right. All right. Well, hey, thanks so much for the call. Well, again, we'll have to see. Maybe we'll have you on again in the future to sort of
Hopefully
give your
so.
take as we see it expand. Is there anything you want to say as we say goodbye?
No, just keep up the great work and keep giving the good interviews.
Thank you so much.
All right, last guy.
Yeah. Last caller coming up. A couple quick shout outs to any subs. Nice Tail, thank you for the tier 1, and DJ Candy, thank you for the 4 months. Appreciate it. For sure. Oh. I just got a message from Steve, who sent me a screenshot of him buying, ironically, the same watch that I chose on their website, which is this one. So Steve and I can match, and he's using the discount, so he's getting 15% off. Thank you, Steve, for buying a Boomprint watch. That's awesome. You can match.
Great minds think alike.
Mr. Mojo, welcome to the show. What do you want to talk about? Or first off, where are you calling from? Sorry.
Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Texas. I'm going to turn you up a little bit. What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
So my take was basically that since C9 got the second seed, which hasn't happened in a long time, I think since season 4, they'll have a worse time performing at Worlds because sort of the mental toll the final takes on them, and I think that the Gauntlet in previous years after losing the finals helped them reset and have a proper mindset going into the boot camps. And since they won't be skipping it this time, I think they might have an issue of being tilted from losing the finals, especially since it was so close that they'll just sort of have a worse time in practice and they'll come out cold. They might still do fine, but at least at the beginning it'll be rough.
The classic question of does C9 perform better because of their plans experience?
Yeah, essentially.
Dun.
Well, yeah. I could see it. Because it does feel like they warm up over the course of the tournament and the plans is helpful. It's actually kind of hard to know. Do you have Mr. Mojo besides the theory? Do you think you have any good supporting evidence for this?
No, it's just sort of something that I've seen as a pattern, and I'm kind of pulling from that. I mostly admit not really playing necessarily, but using the time that they have after the finals to have to focus on Gauntlet might help them sort of brush off the loss, especially if it was pretty bad. And I think season 6, they didn't go to final season 7, but season 6 and season 8, they lost both times and then went to the Gauntlet, and that was sort of a reset for them. And then they moved into boot camp, which I think helped. It might smooth it out because, as I was watching the press conferences about what they're gonna do until they go boot camp, I'm afraid that they'll just tilt even further.
So I know Jack, I think, tweeted one of the years, that he kind of enjoys being in the playing stage. So I think it is kind of true that they like being in there, but I also think, one, they're not the kind of team that would try and use that as any sort of reasoning for anything. If you're a good team and you want to get out of groups, you should just get out of groups and not, have this better formula to get out of groups that other teams can't do kind of thing. And they don't act like that. I'm not saying they do, but just If you should get out of groups, you should get out of groups. And I know your point is more like they'll do worse because of this, but I don't know. It's so hard to tell.
What if our third place team goes the furthest of any NA team because at Worlds and they go through plans?
That would be like the ultimate proof that like being third is best. I will say I wouldn't be surprised if being third is better than being second. Especially for North American teams, because let me see how the pooling works for this Worlds. Because I do think getting first is nice because you avoid every region's first seed, right? So that's really a really big deal. But I think second and third seeds are pretty interchangeable, right? And it's only NA's third pool that gets into the third pool of draw. God, this is not formatted well for what I want to look at quickly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, either way, I think you can make the case that the difficulty of opponents when you're a second seed versus a third seed is pretty close together, and that the extra stage time is more valuable. I think you can make that argument. How specific that is to C9, I'm not quite sure. Because then you're less talking about, oh, C9 needs this, and more like teams shouldn't try and get, I don't know, second.
Yeah, I mean, I think sort of the way I was trying to frame this more, and I can blame myself for this, I'm not very good at this kind of thing, but, like, is more focused on, like, the mentality of it. Like, I have no, like, I think that C9, if they do well at Worlds, they'll still do better than whoever goes to the third seed, whether it's CG or CLG or anything like that. But I think I just meant it more from like a mental state, because
right.
I think like in Doublelift mentioned this, and I think the interview with Travis recently, that like boot camps can be really stressful, and I think that if you go into boot camp after like closely losing a finals against something that you probably should have won, like your mindset might get kind of wrecked, and it'll sort of ruin the ability to improve during boot camp. And they might just kind of walk in cold.
Yeah, I can see that. I think C9 will be better, but I do think, once again, sorry to keep pulling away from C9 specifically, but like especially a team like 100 Thieves last year, where you lose 2 best of 5s going into Worlds, and you're doing some like goofy roster stuff, like that. I can totally see your point of like, if you had time to reset through a gauntlet or something, maybe 100 Thieves would have been in a better place, or if they got to play in through play-ins and made their way into the main group stage. I can definitely see that one for sure. C9 specifically, though, like I feel like their run this time around was, it's a full 5-game series. Yeah, you're probably tilted that you didn't win it, but I think the time until you get to the boot camp and then scrims will be enough of a wash itself that I don't think that this loss to Team Liquid is so stinging that they will be crippled in their Worlds performance. So for C9 specifically, this time around, I don't think it's too bad.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm so torn. I just think there's just no way of knowing. But I think it will look very funny if they like don't get out of groups, and this is the year that they got second seed. I feel like that's when Jack, Jack seems like the type of guy who would then be like, "Fuck, maybe I want to get third every year." I don't know.
Oh, also, Emily made a good point in chat where it's like one of the reasons that you can think second seeds are worse is because second seeds are qualified on points, and so even outside the mentality aspect, they might just actually be worse than third seeds who actually have to prove their way there through the gauntlet. Whereas, right, but even outside the mentality, which is kind of what I was talking more about, just the fact that like, hey, they might not actually be the second, third, or even fourth best team in a region, right? Like who knows how far down a team that overperformed in spring could go, right? If TSM let's say TSM did a little bit better, beat Clutch, but then went out in fourth this spring, I think they had enough points to make it then behind instead of C9 or something weird. If C9 got second, I forget exactly, but like let's say TSM made it on second in points while they're doing all this stuff with roster and things. Like it's just that like your second seed is probably more frequently than we would admit not actually your second best team at all.
Yeah. Hey, Mr. Mojo, thanks for the call. Anything you want to say as we say goodbye?
Nothing, just that I've really been a fan for a long time. I've watched since like the GameSpot days, so I've been around a little bit.
Yeah, that's super long. Thanks,
you for
dude. I
everything.
really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So that's the show. For myself, I'm going to be at PAX all weekend. If you're at PAX, come through, say hi. Saint and I will be at the Alienware booth. And I'll probably be roaming the floor and hanging out. I'm going to go for a hike at some point in time, so you can catch me on the hiking trail. Oh, thanks to C9, by the way, for sending me a tank top. They have joined Team Liquid in the Tank Top Club. I'm trying to collect all the tank tops from all the LCS teams that make it. So if you are an LCS team and you make a tank top, please send me the tank top. I'll talk about it. Mark?
I'm playing WoW right now, to be honest. So it's been great.
We might have to do the show next week on Wednesday because I'll be flying back on Tuesday from PAX. I'll figure that out with Mark afterwards. This is Hotline League episode 88. Thanks so much for watching.